Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to this week's live. Last week I had a week off. I was sick last week actually. I spent a couple of days in bed, like so many. I got impacted by the winter bugs, the winter germs, the winter illness. And it's interesting because as much as we can, you hear me talk about self-care a lot, as much as we can devote to our self-care, sometimes we still get sick. And as much as we can devote to being happy, optimistic, filling out our gratitude journals, doing all the right things, sometimes bad things happen in our life too. And I think we have a tendency to assume that if we do all these things and follow all these lists and this advice, that bad will never come to us. One of the things I've been reflecting on, and something I talked about at my workshop last weekend, Thrive for Women, is that good and bad will come to us, health and illness will come to us, no matter how good we are, no matter how rich we are, all of the things that we do, we'll still get an element of peaks and troughs. It's the ebb and flow of life. And so being happy, having good self-care, doing all these things that we talk about, it's not that that's a guarantee and a safety net for this stuff not happening. It just helps us bounce back better when it does. And it's okay not to be okay, because here's the thing, we can do as much as we can in the space of keeping ourselves happy, healthy and thriving at life, but still we might get sick, still we might lose people we love, still things won't turn out as we planned. And we do have a tendency to chase after the good and try and avoid the bad and not want it to happen to us, and sometimes it does, and it's okay not to be okay when it does. I think what matters is what we choose to do with that, how we bounce back from that, what we learn from that. And it's about the ebb and flow of life, and this all starts with our mindset. And mindset is such a massive thing, kind of interwoven into everything that I do. So my first book, 4 or 5 years ago now, A Rough Guide to a Smooth Life, was based around mindfulness and resilience. And those that have known me a long time will know that mindfulness is a massive passion of mine. And of late, particularly since the launch of Like a Girl, the last year or two, it's much more about imposter syndrome. And what I really enjoyed last weekend was the Thrive workshop. The first time I've run this workshop, Thrive for Women, enabled me to put those two things together. So I was really excited about that, my two main passions and the two things that have been big and almost like book one and book two combined. And I really enjoyed that, because when we talk about mindset, whether we're talking about the things we tell ourselves, how positive our mind is, our negativity bias and all the things we don't like about ourselves, or focusing on our weaknesses, whether we're talking about imposter syndrome and self-belief, or whether we're talking about the flip side of that mindset coin and balancing busyness, overcoming overwhelm, having that calm, centered, peaceful, not busy, cloudy, thought-filled brain. Whichever aspect of mindset we're looking at, it's all the same, and it all starts here in our minds. So I was really pleased to be able to share that and put that together in a workshop that kind of covered all of my passions where mindset is concerned. So we talked about balancing busy last weekend at Thrive. We talked about overcoming overwhelm. We looked at a self-assessment. Where am I at in my life right now, and where am I thriving, where am I not? What does it take for me to thrive? How do I align to my values and what my life's all about? Because we are all very different. So it was great to be able to look at that stuff in the workshop Thrive, and there's some online content coming in that space too, around how we build resilience, protect our mind, overcome overwhelm, and just put us in the best space possible so that we can thrive. Because what we think becomes how we feel, and that in turn becomes how we act, our results. Everything begins in the mind. And if our mind is a calm, positive, well-trained, well-rested place, then our life as a result becomes a lot more easy. It flows a lot better. And when bad stuff does crop up, we're more able to bounce back from that. It aids our resilience. So mind is so important. And I love the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. Because when we talk about self-belief, self-efficacy, we talk about things like imposter syndrome, a lot of that is also in our mind. When we look at what's happening on the outside, we're doing a good job, we're good at what we're doing, we're getting success, praise, recognition. But in our head, that voice is still saying, am I really cut out for this? Are they not going to find out soon enough that I'm actually not as good as they seem to think I am? So what we do with our mind, how we treat it, how we train it, and most importantly, how we rest it, is so important. And for those that know me, you'll know that meditation is one of my go-tos, has been for the last 7 or 8 years, and will continue to be so. It's such an easy, simple tool, takes very little time, costs very little money, and it's something that I've sworn by for the last 7 years and continue to do so in terms of thriving at life. So I'm going to be sharing more tips in that space through these lives and through some of the online content. There's also going to be some more Thrive workshops coming your way, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I hope you're staying warm. I hope you're not impacted by the winter bugs that seem to be doing the rounds in New Zealand at the moment, and I look forward to touching base with you next week. Have a great weekend.